Welcome to the Left Library, the home of simple political theory. Today we're examining a defining struggle in socialist thought, reform or revolution, by Rosa Luxemburg. This work is not just a rebuttal of reformism, but an urgent call to recognize that capitalism cannot be dismantled through parliamentary means alone. Luxemburg's argument remains as relevant today as it was in 1899. Luxemburg wrote Reform or Revolution as a response to Eduard Bernstein, a prominent member of the German Social Democratic Party, or SPD. Bernstein claimed that capitalism was evolving into a more stable and equitable system through gradual reforms, like higher wages, improved working conditions, and expanding social policies. He argued that revolution was unnecessary because socialism could be achieved incrementally and through democratic institutions. This position, known as Revisionism, directly contradicted Marxist theory that capitalism's internal contradictions make its collapse inevitable. Luxemburg saw Bernstein's ideas as a dangerous departure from revolutionary socialism, one that would lead the movement into a political paralysis and integration into the capitalist system. Her book is a systematic demolition of his claims, demonstrating why reformism cannot lead to socialism, but instead secures capitalism's survival. The core argument in Reform or Revolution is that capitalism cannot be gradually transformed into socialism. Luxemburg explains that while reforms may temporarily improve workers' conditions, they do not dismantle the fundamental structures of exploitation. Capitalism is built on wage labour, private ownership, and profit accumulation. These elements remain intact regardless of social reforms. Reforms, Luxemburg argues, are not the result of capitalist generosity, but a result of class struggle. However, she argues, as long as the capitalist system endures, any reforms won by workers are precarious and can be reversed when the ruling class feels threatened. Economic crisis, competition, and declining profits ensure that the capitalist class will always resist measures that undermine their control over wealth and production. Bernstein pointed to trade unions and social legislation as proof that capitalism was becoming more humane and stable. Luxemburg dismantles this notion by highlighting capitalism's cyclical crises. Reforms may adjust its conditions temporarily, but they do not prevent exploitation, nor do they change capitalism's tendency towards crisis and stagnation. Another central point that Luxemburg makes is that the capitalist state is not a neutral space where socialism can be legislated into existence. Parliamentary democracy, she argues, is ultimately structured to serve the ruling class. Even if socialists gain seats in government, they remain constrained by capitalist legal frameworks, capitalist economic forces, and institutions, all designed to uphold private property. By prioritizing electoral success and legislative reforms over revolutionary organizing, reformist parties risk becoming absorbed into the system they seek to change. Instead of fostering working class power, they teach workers to rely on bourgeois institutions, eroding the potential for revolutionary action. Luxemburg warns that this approach weakens the socialist movement, making it easier for reactionary forces to dismantle past gains and suppress any future advances. Luxemburg does not reject reforms outright. She acknowledges their importance, but insists that they must be understood as a part of the broader revolutionary struggle. For Luxemburg, the fight for better wages, shorter working hours, and social protections is vital, not as an alternative to revolution, but as a means to build working class consciousness and organizational strength. The working class does not develop revolutionary awareness through abstract theory alone, but through concrete struggles against exploitation. Mass movements, strikes, and political confrontations teach workers the limits of capitalism and the necessity of revolution. The danger lies in treating reforms as a substitute for systemic change, rather than a step towards it. So, why does Luxemburg insist that revolution is so necessary? This is, she says, because capitalism as a system is based on exploitation, crisis, and expansion. It cannot peacefully be reformed into socialism because its contradictions demand the constant reproduction of inequality for the benefit of a few. Even during periods of apparent stability, the fundamental nature of capitalist accumulation remains unchanged. She also warns that failing to pursue revolution allows reactionary forces to regroup and strike back. History has proven her right. Wherever socialist movements have focused solely on reforms, they have been co-opted, neutralized, or crushed by the ruling class. Luxemburg's message is clear. Real change requires a rupture with capitalism, not a slow adaptation to its structures. More than a century later, reform and revolution remains essential for understanding the failures of reformist policies. The same debates that Luxemburg engaged in persist today. Social democratic parties continue to advocate for incremental change, often finding themselves constrained by capitalist market forces. Meanwhile, revolutionary socialists argue that capitalism must be abolished entirely. The last several decades have illustrated the limits of reformism. Progressive governments, even when elected with ambitious promises, find themselves restricted by economic pressures, capital flight, and capitalist legal barriers. Luxemburg's critique remains painfully relevant. Reforms alone do not bring socialism. They merely manage capitalism's contradictions for a time. Luxemburg's work challenges us to think critically about strategy, power, and the future of socialist movements. If reformism is a dead end, how should revolutionaries organize today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found the video insightful, please do like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more in-depth Marxist texts. This has been the Left Library, the home of simple political theory. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.